All right, everybody. Thank you so much. It's 6 p.m. and welcome to the Department of Public Works' presentation on the future of recycling and solid waste collection. It is a beautiful evening in Burlington, and appreciate folks who are joining us remotely. And we were going to go through a short presentation and then open it up to a Q&A. The presentation will be about 15 minutes. I'm Chapin Spencer. I'm the Director of Public Works, and I'm joined today by two of my colleagues. I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
Lee Perry, Division Director, Maintenance Division, City of Burlington Public Works.
And Robert Goulding, Public Information Manager for Public Works.
Great, thank you, Lee and Rob. So we are going to go through a quick presentation here of our state of our recycling and solid waste collection in the city, and then happy to answer your questions. So Burlington has been a leader in establishing a citywide recycling collection service back in the early 90s. We've been running it for 30 years. When we set it up, we were, as I understand, the first in the state to offer a citywide recycling collection. And recycling, as well as organics, is a critical piece of reducing trash and landfill material, and that our commitment to that is unwavering. And it's important, as some people have erroneously thought that Burlington was seeking to just stop recycling. The question is how we are continuing to recycle in the city and how best to collect it, not whether to collect recyclables. There are two important issues that we need to discuss and want your feedback on. One is how the collection happens of recycled materials for residential properties in the city for the next 3 to 5 years. And then what's the best operational model, not just for recycling, but for trash, compost, and recycling moving forward for the long term. For background, there are 3 main ways that communities can coordinate the collection of trash, recycling, and compost. Subscription service is what we're familiar with in the city of Burlington today for how trash and compost is selected. Residents call up their local hauler and subscribe to service and then pay a monthly or quarterly bill for that service. The other 2 options are consolidated collection, whether a franchised system where private haulers collect the trash, recycling, and compost, or whether it is municipally operated. So a consolidated collection system, similar to how Westford collects solid waste, is that the town contracts with one hauler to collect those waste streams, and that all waste streams are picked up on the same day at people's residences. A municipally operated system is similar, but that the staff of the city with city trucks picks up those waste streams directly. We had a consultant survey communities around the country, and the subscription service that Burlington has for trash is by far the least common, with 11% of communities nationally using that system. Far more common is a consolidated collection approach, where communities have either the municipality or a contractor collect the waste streams, one hauler, up and down one residential street instead of having 5 or 6 different haulers on that same street. Of the cities that do the consolidated collection model, most contract it out to a private hauler, but 40% have the municipal staff collect. In Burlington, as we've discussed, our system is fragmented. For recycling, we have a consolidated collection model where the city picks up recycling. For trash, there's a subscription service, though there is an option as well to have residents go to the Chittenden Solid Waste District drop-off centers. Lastly, for compost, it's subscription service. People can either call a hauler, they can go to the CSWD drop-off center, or compost in their backyard. The challenge with the overall fragmented system is that households can have confusing pickup schedules. My family has a different trash pickup, different compost schedule, and different recycling schedule. It makes it confusing. It adds more truck traffic and emissions with multiple haulers serving the same streets. And it can be more costly just due to the inefficiency of having multiple trash and compost haulers serving the same street. Similarly, we are also struggling with some of the components of how we collect recycling in the city. While the program is consolidated, which allows for efficient collection, which has a strong plus, we have struggled with high staff turnover. And once those positions have turned over, we've had a hard time filling them. We've struggled with injuries in the past and inadequate resourcing of the program overall. Because of that inadequate resourcing, we have old trucks and they have broken down frequently. All of that leads to low staff morale in this program. And basically, there are many priorities within the city, and collecting recycling every day has to happen, which means other priorities fall off the plate. The city has been working to address these challenges. We are not standing idly by. We have done a number of things, as you'll see here. We've offered hiring bonuses and reclassified workers in order to help with recruitment. We have added a fourth recycling position to strengthen the team. We've required customers to use toters instead of blue bins, and I want to thank everybody watching who has helped us with that. That actually has moved the needle on injuries, so we are tremendously appreciative there. And we have now increased the pay for the temporary recycling positions twice this year, up to $30 an hour, and still have not been able to generate applicants. So unfortunately, while we've moved the needle on the injury front, we have struggled on the remainder of the operational areas. So as part of the FY26 budgeting process and the Mayor's Modern Gov initiative, we have been exploring the concept of looking at different ways of collecting recycling. One of the ways we have evaluated is the concept of contracting with a private hauler, or maybe two, in the next 3 to 5 year period to do the consolidated collection on the streets. The benefits of these, as you'll see here, are many. Some of the pieces that we haven't talked about yet is that having the staff members in the city not have to cover open recycling positions, it means there's more time that they can maintain our infrastructure and maintain our fleet. And a lot of those activities are billable, and therefore our staff can earn money for the city and reduce the property tax impact of the city's operation overall. So as you'll see in that last bullet, moving to a contracted system would allow both the field staff as well as management staff to focus on infrastructure maintenance and the downfield question of, do we move to an overall consolidated collection transition? And that opportunity could really bring additional cost savings to the public, but we need the time to be able to do that work. So staff brought forward a short-term recommendation that was brought to the council, the city council, on April 18th, and then has been, on April 14th, and then has been brought as well to two public meetings, including this one and the DPW Commission. The short-term recommendation is through an open bid process this calendar year. DPW would contract with 1 or 2 haulers to pick up recycling from residential units over the next 3 to 5 years. And this service would be paid through the solid waste generation tax. Currently, residents are already paying that tax. You may not know, but on your trash bill each month, the trash hauler is required to charge residents $6.90 per residential dwelling unit for the recycling services. So in a duplex in Burlington, they would be paying $13.80 a month on your trash bill for the haulers to pass on to the city for us to be able to collect your recycling. So in this proposal, the city would still collect the solid waste generation tax, but would pay a private hauler to collect recycling. In the medium term, as you're seeing here, we would evaluate with the council, with the DPW Commission and the public, moving to a fully consolidated collection system model for all 3 waste streams. And we would work with the public to figure out how to establish different zones and basically contract or franchise with haulers so that there would only be one hauler in each neighborhood collecting all three waste streams. Very efficient, at a lower cost, but it would limit, it would not allow residents to have a selection, their own choice in hauler. The short-term pilot could launch very quickly. One of the things to mention, it's important to touch on, is that it wouldn't require any change for Burlington households. You wouldn't need to ask your hauler to add this service. The city would do the contracting, the city would pay for it through the solid waste generation tax. And residents would see service as they do today. It would just be a different truck and different staff. It wouldn't also require some of the more burdensome steps to move to a fully consolidated system now. So the short-term pilot of contracting with a private hauler just for recycling would be easy to implement. One of the pieces that's important to note is that the solid waste generation tax historically has paid only for the recycling program and the municipal operation of it. Moving forward, we have a number of important investments that need to be made in solid waste infrastructure here in the city. We have two post-closure landfills, one at Manhattan Drive and one actually in the town of Colchester. We have some soil management facility upgrades that we need to make, and we want to work with the Chittenden Solid Waste District to expand the drop-off center at Pine Street and offer more services there. That's going to mean that regardless of whether the recycling program stays in-house or is contracted to a private hauler, there will be an increase in FY26 of the solid waste generation tax. The last bullet here at the bottom is important though, that once we cover these additional expenses here in the chart, that the solid waste generation tax can then drop down and be much more affordable. So we are looking ahead to the future and trying to figure out the best way to collect our waste streams. The City Council did ask us back in 2018 and 2020 to explore different models. And we have identified that not only would emissions decrease by an estimated 2/3 on our residential streets because of the reduction in truck traffic for solid waste collection, it would also be cheaper, but there are a number of policy items that would need to be worked out. And you'll see those policy issues on the bottom of the screen here, which is why we need time to move in this direction, should it be the choice of the City Council and the DPW Commission. Your input would be helpful. As I mentioned, there are a number of benefits to moving to a fully consolidated collection system. You're seeing those here. One of the things we haven't talked about yet is just the increased safety of having fewer trucks on our road and reduced noise in neighborhoods. So you get the environmental benefits, the noise benefits, the safety benefits, and really the increased diversion by making recycling easy and cost effective. So let's talk about the next steps in the timeline. We're here at public meeting number 2. We had the opportunity to present to the council and to the public and the Public Works Commission previously. We are now slated to come back to the City Council and report back on what we've heard through the public meetings on May 12th. So you have a couple weeks before that meeting, and we welcome your feedback tonight, and that will inform what we bring forward on the 12th. As part of that, if the council does give us a direction to go forward and put together a request for price quotes or to look to contract to private haulers, then we would work to develop bid documents over the course of May and let out a invitation to bid later in the month. And we think on that timeline, we could select vendors for recycling service in July, with a likely transition in the late fall or by the beginning of 2026. That would give us time then to plan for a potential consolidated collection evaluation over the course of the coming years with hopefully a transition once this pilot period of 3 to 5 years was complete. I will note that last night at the Transportation, Energy and Utilities Committee of the City Council, they did discuss a dual track of not just putting out a request for price quotes in May, but also having the city outline what the cost would be for us to more sustainably fund the operation in-house. So I believe both of those directions will be fully vetted by the council on May 12th. So we are seeking council direction in May on a somewhat short timeline to make sure that we are supporting our field staff and give them a clear direction of where we're headed, and to clarify our budget assumptions so that we can bring forward an FY26 budget to the council in the coming weeks. And with that, let me ask Lee and Rob if there's anything you two want to add before we open up to questions.
No, I think you covered the presentation pretty well.
Okay, Rob?
Yep.
All right.
Ready to go for questions.
Okay, do you want to manage that?
Sure thing. For folks online, if you are interested in continuing the conversation tonight and having any questions, feel free to use the raise your hand feature. We can go in order, and if there's not a long queue, feel free to just speak up and we're happy to answer any questions you have. Paige, you're up in queue if you want to unmute yourself, and feel free to ask away.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm on my phone, so I couldn't find all my little buttons. My question is, what is the expectation in terms of the cost to residents if this becomes a consolidated approach? I understand why all of this is happening, but I also asked the question, and I'm glad to hear that it's important. I was concerned about people then no longer recycling, because it's really important that people continue to recycle. Recycling is most of my waste. And so I take my little bit of garbage and compost when I don't compost on my own to the waste facility. But if recycling is going to be consolidated as part of everything else, as part of trash and composting, am I then now going to have to start paying to have all three services when I'm saving money right now with my $3 a week, because I really don't make that much waste?
Lee, do you want to take that?
Sure. So I assume you're speaking of a fully consolidated model.
Yes.
So as you saw on one of the slides with the policies that we would have to outline would be an opt-out option for residents. What percentage we would base that on, we wouldn't know until we do the model. Previous studies had opt-out options up to 15 to 25%. But how we would base that, we would have to create that policy to allow who opts in and who is able to opt out, whether it's on a first come, first served basis. That's one of the policies we would have to go over.
When you're saying opt in or opt out, is it opting out of the service altogether, or is it opting out of parts of it?
Well, it could be both options. Actually, you could opt in for recycling and opt out for trash and compost if that's currently what you're doing.
Okay.
But that's part of the policy that we would have to create.
It is something you're thinking about, though. That's what I'm understanding.
Yeah,
correct.
We're very clear that there are residents such as yourself who are waste managers, professional waste managers, and have very limited trash. And people like to self-haul and save money. And so one of the things we've heard loud and clear is that if we move to a consolidated system, we can't require everybody to participate because some people would like the opportunity to self-haul.
And with that said, self-hauling my recycling would be too much for me.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing, and we'll capture this feedback, is that you'd like options to be able to opt in or out for each waste stream if we move to a fully consolidated system.
Yes, thank you.
That's good feedback.
Thank you, Paige. The floor is still open for any other members of the public who have other questions. And obviously we can come back around for Paige or others if you have more rounds of questions.
It's a beautiful night and I'm glad most people are out enjoying it.
We're not seeing any raised hands right now. And there's not a lot of, not a ton of people in the meeting, so the floor really is open if any members of the public have burning questions they want to hear from DPW staff on as we move this forward back to the city council.
And so maybe in conclusion, we can take comments at this point moving forward through to the council meeting on May 12th. Comments can be sent to BTV Recycling at burlingtonvt.gov. And there's a ton of information that Rob has put online at the city's website, burlingtonvt.gov/recyclingfuture. So on there, you'll find full documents, presentations, the email to contact us and share feedback. We want this solid waste collection system to reflect the priorities of our residents. So your input is tremendously important.
And if you happen to have missed any of the contact info, we do have a link right to the Recycling Future page on the DPW homepage, which is usually easier to find. So feel free to navigate there, give us a call if you have any issues or questions that come up that you would rather talk to us about.
So thank you all for coming and attending. We're going to put this presentation online so that folks can enjoy it and watch it at their convenience. Please reach out with any questions and thanks for attending.